This is Magician Recaps Explains. Today we are explaining a 2018 sci-fi and adventurous movie about an outbreak of deadliest disease throughout the whole world and how humanity survive it. Please like and subscribe for more blockbuster movie recap. This film begins with the Gladders chasing after a WCKD train to save Minyu, Ki Hong Lee, and other captivated children. Thomas, Dylan O'Brien, and Vince, Barry Pepper, manage to board the train while Jorge, Giancarlo Esposito, and Brenda, Rosa Salazar, fend off WCKD mercenaries. Thomas and Vince jump on and separate the cart with the captives away from the main train. When the villains realize what happened, they attempt to run back to kill the Gladders. Fortunately, Newt, Thomas Brody Sangster, and some members of the Right Hand were hiding around, and they hijack a WCKD jet, and were able to carry the cart off the train, and back to their hideout. Upon getting to the hideout, Thomas realizes that Minyu isn't with the ones they rescued, as he had thought. Newt and Frypan choose to go with Thomas, to go find him, even though Vince and Jorge prefer everyone to stay together. Jansen, Aidan Gillen, finds Minyu at the train site. When they get him back to WCKD headquarters, Minyu is put in a virtual reality simulation, where he finds himself in the same maze he started in. He runs through it, and finds himself being chased by a griever. Minyu is cornered by the griever in the simulation. Meanwhile, WCKD scientists are extracting his blood, for finding a cure for the flare virus. Overseeing all this is Ava, Patricia Clarkson, and Teresa, Kaya Scodelario, the latter, who feels regretted for betraying Thomas and the others. Meanwhile, Thomas, Newt, and Frypan drive through a tunnel past an infection checkpoint, where they run into Cranks. Their car flips over, and nearly traps them, but Frypan appears with a rifle to start shooting at the Cranks, before they can attack. An even larger number of Cranks approach before the guys are rescued by Jorge and Brenda. They head toward the last city, until they realize it is guarded by a massive wall, to keep the infected out. Ava and Teresa meet with WCKD board members, to discuss the matter of the wall, and their progress in creating a serum for the virus. Ava suggests that they allow her and the scientists to start performing trials. Despite their hesitation, Teresa steps in, and gives good reasoning for going ahead with the trials. The group get to the outside of the city, to see a crowd of infected protesters, gathered by the wall. Within some few moments, guards begin to fire upon the protesters, using enormous blasters. Thomas and his friends run from the chaos and are captured by masked men. After being brought to a safe spot, Jorge starts beating one of the masked men. The man shows himself to be Gally, Will Poulter, previously thought to have been dead. Thomas punches him in the face, as payback for Gally killing Chuck. Gally apologizes for what he did, as he had been infected at the time. He gives the group a chance to help them. Gally heads the group to the home of an infected rebellion leader, named Lawrence Walton Goggins, whose face is disfigured, as a result of the virus. Lawrence shows Thomas a way to sneak into the city, on the condition that he assists him out as well. Thomas accepts, and travels through a secret passage with Newt and Gally, while the others stay behind. At a lab, Teresa tests out Minyu's blood on a young infected girl, named Cheyenne, Shaylun Chu. Teresa then heads to Minyu's cell, to tell him what she's doing. But he pulls her in, and attacks her for being a traitor, before guards rush in to sedate him. Teresa goes back to realize that Cheyenne's condition has worsened, as she is now in a crank-like state. At the hideout, Gally shows Thomas and Newt that their only way into the WCKD facility is through Teresa. Thomas is hesitant in going through with it, which Newt believes is because Thomas still has feelings for Teresa. Newt becomes angry with Thomas, until he gets calmed down. Outside, Newt opens up to Thomas that he got infected in the tunnels, but he doesn't want anyone else to know about it just yet. Thomas was able to get Teresa to spot him on the streets, leading her to follow him into an alley, where Gally catch her. She is brought before the group to convince her that they want to get inside the facility, and Teresa reveals they need her fingerprint. Thomas, Newt, Gally, and Teresa all go toward the facility. Gally heads to find a serum and the immune children, while the rest go look for Minu. They find and finally free him, and they move to escape, but are seen by Jansen and several guards. Teresa assists the guys escape, while she stays back. Newt finds the children, and frees them, with Gally guiding them outside, after finding the serum. The children move toward a bus with Brenda. Frypan assists pull the bus away with a crane, but it becomes too heavy, and falls away from WCKD. Thomas, Newt, and Minu are left with no choice but to jump out a window and into a pool to get away from Jansen. Lawrence gathers his army of infected people as they move to take the city back. Lawrence rides a van with explosives into the side of the wall, causing a huge explosion that helps the army to storm in. Soon, the whole city is under siege. Meanwhile, Newt's infection starts to get worse, turning more into a crank. He gives Thomas a necklace with a cylinder, before he passes out. Teresa broadcasts her voice over the speakers to call to Thomas, saying they need his blood for the cure, since it was his blood that aided in curing Brenda, when she was sick. Moments later, Newt reawakens in a crank-like state, pleading with Thomas to kill him, as he starts to attack. Thomas defends himself against Newt, until he is forced to put a knife in Newt's heart. Newt dies, and the others gather around him, as Thomas goes back to WCKD with great regrets. Thomas finds Ava, and he points his gun at her. She tries to help him, only to get shot dead by Jansen. He takes Thomas to a room, where Teresa is preparing to extract his blood. When Jansen says that WCKD will only cure those they deem fit, Teresa whacks him over the head, and she attempts to help Thomas get out. Thomas then starts to fight Jansen. Before Jansen can finish them, Thomas throws a weight at a cell door, holding two cranks. They break out and start to eat Jansen to death. Thomas and Teresa move to the top of the building, but Thomas was just shot by Jansen. Jorge rides a jet to the top with Brenda, Vince, and Gally. Teresa helps Thomas jump to safety. Before she can move, the building next to the facility collapses in the chaos of the rebellion. The adjacent building comes down on WCKD, causing it to crumble and collapse, killing Teresa with it. Thomas looks on in sadness, as he watches her fall to her death. A while later, the survivors have made it to an island, a safe haven that Ava had talked of. They make it their new home. Thomas is given the necklace that Newt gave to Minu earlier. Inside is a note from Newt to Thomas, reflecting on their entire ordeal, and appreciating him for being a friend, but also requesting that he takes care of himself and everyone else. The survivors then begin to carve the names of their lost loved ones onto a rock. Thomas carves the names of Chuck, Newt, and Teresa. The final shot shows Thomas walking along the beach alone, holding the serum in his hands, as he looks out into the distance.